New episode. We're in a strange location.
We're in the old air traffic control tower here at Liverpool John Lennon Airport, the -- airport in the UK, as voted for by passengers in the Which Survey 2023 of best and worst UK airports. I think I've got that right.
I agree.
Okay.
It's better than Manchester. Terminal 3
that goes without saying.
Terminal 3 Manchester is one of the worst terminals in the world.
If you can't sit down, you're screwed,
Exactly.
basically.
Yeah. We're in the old control tower. With a cool view. We can see planes behind us. And you've travelled to 96 countries.
96 countries. So 4 off triple figs.
96. I've done 77. And we've both got some definitely controversial travel opinions.
Well, you say controversial. Yeah. I say correct.
I mean, they're correct. What I'm going to say in this episode is correct, and you're going to say the exact same.
Nah.
We're going to disagree, but...
Or will we?
I think we'll disagree on some.
Keep watching to find out. That'd be an interesting fight location, wouldn't it? Having a scrap at the top of an air traffic control tower. I wonder if that's ever been done before.
Nah, no chance. It's an octagon, kind of.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, it is. Wrap a cage round here.
There we go.
That'd be good.
Don't fall out.
No.
I'm going to ask you some questions. You're going to ask me some questions. And some of them will trigger some people, and that's fine. Argue in the comments all you want. You're wrong, but we can try. Just start off with a mad one, and I think I know your answer. I think people will completely disagree with you. What is the safest country in the world?
That is actually quite easy because I don't think there's much, if any, competition really. But that's North Korea. Now, no. I have reasoning behind it. I'm not just saying that to be purposely inflammatory or anything. Like genuinely. I went to North Korea, that was probably about 5 years ago now, 2018, in fact 6 years ago, God that's depressing. And we went to China first, and then I joined a group trip. We went across the border into North Korea, and it was one of the most incredible travel experiences I've ever done. I wanted to go for a long time, so it didn't just, it wasn't one of these, I wanted to go because it looks cool online. I want to visit every country in the world, but North Korea especially. One thing I love about travel is like the discovery aspect. So I actually love going to a place and that not many people have been to, because I think one of the essences or like the main things about travel is discovering things for yourself, seeing stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like North Korea is one of them places. Although you've seen some videos on it, when you actually go there, you're seeing so much, and so much is different. But the reason why it's so safe to go to is because if you're respectful and you obey the rules, as you should in any country you go to, not just North Korea. But as long as you respect the local traditions and cultures, you'll be absolutely fine. No one's going to rob you, no one's going to pickpocket you, no one's going to threaten you, no one's going to get angry at you, shout abuse at you. You don't see loads of drunk people out and about getting into fights. Didn't see anyone even come close to anything like a car crash, a car accident, anything like that. As a tourist, you are perfectly safe, so long as you abide by the rules. If you go off and do your own thing, then you're going to be pushing back. And I know, when I went, I know there were some people there that, were trying to fly a little bit too close to the sun. However, if you just do what you should be doing in any country and respecting them, then you will have no problems. I know one, in fact, that Otto Warmbier, have you heard of him?
Yeah.
So in fact, his roommate was a Scouser on that trip. I don't know if you know that, but I saw that on the interview. And he was the kid, for those of you who don't know, he was the kid who went to North Korea. He supposedly stole a poster and got sentenced to so many years of hard labour, ended up disappearing, showing back up maybe a few months later, a couple of years, whatever it was, basically brain dead. And he got, I think, flown back to the US, and I think he died when he got home, or he pretty much checked out anyway. So I don't know, I cannot say this for certain, but my opinion of that Otto Warmbier, I don't think he just stole a poster. I think he must have been pushing buttons throughout that trip. Now, I can't say this for certain, so and I don't mean any disrespect to his family or anything, but I would find it highly unlikely if you did one thing wrong in North Korea, unless it was like gross misconduct.
Yeah.
I think you'd be absolutely fine. I think there must have been things leading up to that. I don't think it's a one strike and you're out kind of deal. And that's why I think stories like that are very sensationalist. And that basically, you look at that and you think, North Korea. That must be a horrible place to go to. You go there, you're going to die. Well, let me tell you, it's just not like that.
Yeah.
I went, had a great time. The only time I was actually worried was crossing over into the border from China and coming back across, because they're the kind of ones they're not going to let you in,
Yeah.
or they're not going to let you out.
Not
And
gonna
both
let you out is
times,
worse.
well, they're not going to let you out is worse. However, like when I got there, I was in a group of 6 people, and we didn't actually have like a tour leader because the group was so small. They usually allocate a tour leader if there's like 20 of you, just to kind of oversee the tour, make sure there's a liaison between the people on the trip and the actual people running the trip, but there wasn't with us. So I was the youngest one there, and they all volunteered me to go on to basically fill out all the forms and to liaise with the guards and make sure, like what we like when we were entering the country, we were given like the correct information so they'd let us in. I was worried about the guards being all like overly interested in me and my belongings and being a bit cold with me. They were having jokes with us, they were laughing with us, they were asking questions about us. He literally came on the, you have to itemise all the electronics you have. The guy come on the train, he goes, "Have you got a camera?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Where is it?" "In your bag." He just said, "Is that your bag?" Looked at it and went, "Okay." That was it. But people think, oh, they're going to snoop through all your belongings. And maybe they do on some trips. I've not been on, obviously, every single North Korea trip there's ever been. But I think you've got to remember that people play up to all this when they talk about it on social media. So they want to make it sound worse than it is.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, they might not get as many clicks, they might not get as many views. They want it to sound as controversial as possible, but honestly, it isn't as bad as people make out. And I know that's probably not what people want to hear, but I think it means that hopefully by people hearing that, it opens them up to the possibility of going to North Korea, because I know some people that would just not even entertain the idea.
Same.
But I think if they had actually had the experience that I'd had, their opinion would change quite a bit. So yeah, North Korea for me, the safest country in the world. Even if you go to Spain on holiday, you're more likely to encounter a drunk person who will punch you than you are of anything else happening to you in North Korea, other than having a good time or having a fascinating visit. Because I know that sounds ridiculous, but that is my honest belief.
North Korea, safest country in the world.
And what would you say? Or do you not have
I've
one?
never been to North Korea. Every country I've been to, there's some element of danger there. Even if you go down to like Monaco, you're not going to get stabbed or knocked out, but you might get run over. So you might get run over, you might get hit by a car. Switzerland, obviously very safe country. You might get hit by an avalanche. Somebody might be drunk and come and knock you out. You might get pickpocketed. So you're probably right. That probably is the answer. North Korea is probably the safest country in the world. Maybe Turkmenistan.
Maybe, but I don't know whether their thresholds will be slightly different, because they may have other ways of making money. I think North Korea is quite reliant, or is more reliant on tourism.
Possibly.
Would you say? And by the way, when I say it's the safest country in the world, I will say for tourists. I'm not locals.
100%, yeah.
It's a different thing. They obviously have to abide by or play by a slightly different playbook. That's a set of rules. That's fine. But your tour guides want you to have a good time, because they want to go back and say we had no problems. They enjoyed themselves, and we made some money from it. Whereas they don't want to be like, this person did this, and like they don't want to worry about getting in trouble themselves, because the authorities there might view that as, well, someone's kind of pissed on the side of a hotel. Well, that reflects badly on you, because why weren't you keeping a watch on them? So that's why that Otto Warmbier thing, that kind of makes me slightly sceptical that he only robbed a poster. Yeah. Because I think from what I saw, you would have had a fair few warnings before anything seriously escalated. But I can't say for certain.
Yeah, it sounds extreme.
It does, but it's the safest country in the world.
There we go. Well, you got a question for me?
No, I have. Right, so it could literally be anywhere in the world, and I don't think there's any rhyme or reason. It's kind of linked to a personal belief, but what for you is the worst food in the world? The worst. I hope you don't say the same as me.
The worst or the most overrated?
No, I'd say the worst.
That's a hard one. I don't think there's any
You can go for most overrated if you. I've got a worst, but you can go
really?
for
Worst specific food or a worst cuisine?
Worst cuisine overall.
I'd put Greece as one of the worst, most overrated.
No.
Yeah. What do you want? Some like gyros with tzatziki on it? That's
Tzatziki.
It's just
like
nothing.
Oh my god! It's like the sauce of the gods.
It's awful.
It's the sauce of the Greek gods.
Like I'll eat it, but it's just like oh, there it is.
Greek salad.
Yeah.
How can you hate Greek salad?
It's just boring. Caesar salad, much better.
Caesar. Where is Caesar salad from?
I think it's American, is it, or Mexican or something?
But like you look at Greek people, a lot of them are attractive, and that probably helps out.
Not because they eat gyros all day.
I don't know. Put a few chips in there, a little bit of Greek salad on top.
It's
the secret formula. I just don't understand how you can hate Greek food, because for me, it's very much, it's like fresh, it's Mediterranean.
Okay. So it's not the worst food, it's just
overrated.
Overrated. And I'd put that up there with Peruvian food. The food isn't bad in Peru. It's all right, but it's not world class. People seem to think that, it's like, oh, you need to try Peruvian food. All right, ceviche is okay.
Guinea pig?
That's Ecuador. Is it?
Well, no, they did have it in Peru. I
tried it.
saw one. It was like on a skewer. It was like that.
Yeah. I didn't try it.
And it didn't look appetising whatsoever.
I had llama in Peru.
Oh yeah, someone had my stomach wasn't very good when I went to Peru. We did hiking in the mountains and stuff, and we came back, and we had one of the lads ordered llama steak or alpaca steak it was, and I did try a little bit. Yeah. But it tasted okay.
Just okay.
Just like meat. It wasn't like amazing. But for me, the worst food in the world is the UK.
Really?
And I know that sounds mad, but when you think of what we have at our disposal, I think a lot of it is quite bland. Things like pies, not a big fan of.
I don't really eat pies. I assume that was going to be your answer. But there are definitely worse cuisines. Like German's not better than British.
But I think if you compare what we've got at our disposal and all the like, you look at the British Empire, all the countries it's invaded over time, we've kind of got other people's cuisines and just brought them here.
Yeah.
But in terms of our own, I feel like it's not really evolved as much as it should with the experience of globetrotting that this country's had. The only thing that saves UK cuisine is we have the best desserts, in my opinion. I think the actual, like the staple cuisine, the main course, the starters, not the great. I think the desserts though, things like trifle or Eton mess, that kind of stuff, apple crumble, that kind of stuff is like, you got some top tier cakes and all that kind of thing. I think we're really good at. But I think the actual main cuisine, the UK, is shit. And I'm probably just going to get trolled in these comments by saying that.
I don't know. I think a lot of people jump on that without even knowing. Would just be like, oh, UK cuisine's the worst, when they haven't even tried it. They don't know. They've not tried like a Sunday roast, a proper one. Tikka masala, very British. Fish and chips, I don't eat fish and chips. I can't eat potato.
Not a fan myself.
I do like fish, but
one of the most overrated food items, I think, sausage rolls.
Yeah, they're just okay.
I'm not a fan. I mean, I don't like pastry that much, so I'd much rather have, like, a Sunday roast is okay, but I feel like it's quite bland and boring after a while. There's not many like spices or flavourings in it, is there? You know, when you see people criticising, well, it's usually criticising white people because they have the food quite bland or whatever. I do think it is missing those elements. Maybe waste is a bit harsh, but yeah, I think considering what we got at our disposal, the experiences that this country's had.
I'll go. Actually, there's definitely a worse cuisine.
Oh, go on.
Russian.
Do you think?
Couldn't imagine anything worse than eating that shit. You ever seen Olivier salad? So when you throw up, there's always chunks of...
well, that's a good start.
There's always chunks of carrot in there, even if you've not eaten carrot. What you see is their salad. It's like peas and potato and stuff, and then mayonnaise, bang.
That's good.
Mixed, it's shit.
You got is it borscht? Is it like
that's Ukrainian?
Oh, is it Ukrainian?
Yeah,
is it? Well, it's not for me. I mean, is it called beetroot soup? That's what it is.
I mean, it's hot.
You can have it hot.
Yeah.
I've seen it served cold though before.
That sounds horrible. It's like gazpacho. That's heated up in the microwave.
Heated up in the microwave.
Italian's got to be at the top with Mexican.
Italian's good. Mexican's good. Lebanese. Have you ever had Lebanese?
No, I knew you were going to say this, but I've tried Lebanese food, but I've never been to Lebanon.
It's so good. When you go there, because their currency's not great. It's quite cheap for us, which isn't ideal for them, and I wish it was stronger. but you got to take advantage of it
Phosphorus,
when you can take advantage of it. And they have like hummus and like shawarma and all that sort of stuff. I'm just trying to think of they've got this like dessert. I can't think what it's called, but it's like a milk kind of flan tiramisu looking thing. Amazing. I will have to find out what it's called later. Hopefully you can overlay it over this. But that's insane. And like you say, it's just every time you go for food there, it's like when you go to, I don't know, Paris and you see all the sights and stuff. It's like almost like an attraction in itself when you go to a restaurant in Lebanon. Everything's good. Everything's like made properly as well. It's like you can taste the love that's been put into the food. A bit like Italy, because they are quite snobby with their food, but for good reason, because the quality backs it up. And I think one of the most underrated cuisines in the world definitely is Argentina.
I agree. I've just been to Argentina.
Unbelievable. Or you can tell us a little bit.
It's boss. So if you like meat, it's the place in the world. We went into a parrilla and sat down, and he said, "This is for 2 people." And I was like, "All right, we'll have that." It comes to like $6, and I couldn't finish it. And it was like just piles of barbecued different meats. There was like lomo, which I think's
Is it a steak?
Yeah, it's a steak, but it's like a really tender steak, maybe tenderloin or something.
Yeah.
And ribeye. It had other stuff, like it had liver and other things, blood sausage, everything. And we had a big salad, and we had like bottles of Coke, $6-7.
And the beer there as well, that Quilmes. I don't know if you ever. I know you're not a big drinker, but the Quilmes beer there is insane. Like that is probably like my favourite beer. If you ever want to try the food, obviously in Argentina, go for it. But don't miss out on the beer if you do drink, of course.
So, best cuisine in the world is what? Would you say Lebanon?
I think you probably have to go Italy, don't you?
I think so. I think anyone who disagrees with that has a preference, but you can't say Italian food isn't amazing. You ever sat there and gone, oh, I really fancy a Greek takeaway? Nah, not having that. Not having anyone's done that.
I've never actually seen it. I don't even think I've.
Probably for good reason, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because you get a pizza, you get a Mexican, you can get Chinese. We've missed Chinese off.
See, I think the Chinese we have here, again, is different to the Chinese in China. I had Peking duck, which is Peking used to be what Beijing was called.
Yeah.
And it's basically like roast duck and pancakes, and they have all that over there, and that was really nice. But they bring it to your table, this massive duck, and I was on my own, so that I didn't finish it all. But they've got the meat, and out on the outside, it's got this like crackling on it, which we don't really have.
No.
In our, they crisp up the skin, but this is like it's like pork crackling we have over here. They've got like duck crackling over there, and that is amazing. But I just think like desserts wise, drinks wise. I'm not personally like a massive fan. Like I don't mind Chinese, but it's not like my go-to.
Indian's
I've never been to India though, so
Indian food. I've said this a few times, and Indians don't like it. The Indian food outside of India is better than the Indian food in India. They exported the best. Because I went all over India. It wasn't good.
But they have that thing, don't they, called Delhi belly?
I mean, I didn't get it.
Oh, really?
Didn't get sick in India. Got very sick in Pakistan, but not in India. I've got a good one for you.
Okay.
I think we'll have a similar answer. I've got 2 answers for this one.
Okay.
The most overrated travel destination in the world is?
Oh, that is tough. Do you know what? I don't know if we will have the same one, because I'm actually going to say one that's very, very popular with people that go, but I think Florence is very overrated.
I've never been.
So obviously you probably have seen photos of like the big dome on the church looking across the river. It's like one of your classic Italian photos, like the Eiffel Tower would be a classic French photo or whatever. But I went to Florence and the weather wasn't great. Admittedly, it was a bit grey and dull. But I just thought the city was a bit run down and a bit shit. Like you've got the cathedral there. It's like in the main square. It's beautiful on the outside, and yet you go inside and it's just a bit bland, dull and boring. So it's like they've put everything on the outside, and then you go inside and it's not that great. And I think that's like a metaphor for the entire city. Like there's bits that look nice, but when you really get into it, it's a bit of a shithole. You've got loads of people out on the street selling like fake handbags and fake goods. I think the actual region itself is beautiful. You've got some really nice countryside. You've got some great destinations nearby, like Siena. It's this like got a beautiful old town where they host the Palio, which is this like horse race they have like in the city's main square. That's really cool to go and see for a day. Obviously, you can go to Pisa, which is a bit shit, but you've got the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But Florence itself is, I just think, I hear a lot of talk about how great it is, and I didn't find it that great. But I bet that wasn't what you thought I was going to say. Why?
No.
What's yours?
Bali.
Really?
Have you been?
No.
It is the most overrated place. Because we were going to Australia anyway, and we were in Indonesia, and we were like, the flights are cheaper from Bali, let's go.
Okay.
I've never seen that much traffic, ever. You can't walk across the road without like, you've got to either stop the cars, which they don't want to do, and when you try and stop a car, a bike just goes, and it's filthy. The place is just filthy.
Really?
There's trash everywhere.
But you hear so much about how great it is for like digital nomads and like wellness and
absolute nonsense.
I'm very surprised at that because I like Bali. I mean, I understand because people obviously rate Bali highly, so it's more at risk of being called overrated. Yeah. But so many people seem to love it. They don't just like, oh yeah, it's a nice place to go on holiday. Yeah. They like I know like few people I follow on Instagram have like moved there.
I think it's weird.
Really?
So weird. Canggu, which is like the Benidorm of Bali, just full of tourist shit. It's a bit cleaner there, but the beaches. It's weird. It's like it's an island, but there's a peninsula. This peninsula apparently has got the best beaches. Shit, I've got some TikToks, and the owners of the restaurants were taking the trash from the beach and just throwing it back into the sea. I'm sat there going, "Are you stupid? It's just gonna go there." They don't care. But it's not in my restaurant anymore. They were cleaning their section, not taking it away, just throwing it back in the sea.
Is it all set up for tourists though?
That wasn't. That where I was by that beach, there was no tourists. It should have been, but there was no tourists. Tanya went and did all the tourist stuff, like trying the poo coffee. She said it was all
is that the one like monkey?
Yeah, it's like
out or whatever or something.
I don't know what it is. It's like a rodent or like a cat or something. Some weird little animal. Eats it and then shits it out and then they clean it.
Lovely.
She said it was all right. Okay. But she was like, that bit's nice. And then she went to this fire festival. It was kind of cool. Bali is just full of traffic, full of elephant pant wearing, spiritual, wannabe hippies. But they do exactly what you just said. They hear that it's amazing. Don't do any research and be like, oh my God, everybody says Bali's amazing, so I've got to go. Well, I hear everybody say Bali's amazing, so I don't want to go. I went anyway. And I was right, it was shit.
Yeah.
I would never ever go back.
And you mentioned Paris as well, like as being overrated.
Yeah.
I actually want to say something in defence of Paris.
Right.
So everyone says it's overrated. Yeah. Loads of people say it's horrible, it's dirty, they don't like it. I think Paris is sick. Like I've been twice and both times I've had a great time. Right. And I think so many people have said it's overrated that it's actually started to become a bit underrated now. Right, yeah. I think it's become like the hipster thing to say, oh, Paris is overrated.
Yeah.
I don't think it is anymore. You've got iconic attractions. You've got the Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe, Mona Lisa, the catacombs, Versailles. There's loads of stuff to do. The food's great. You've got these beautiful like neighbourhoods you can wander around. The metro system's really good to get you all over the city. True. You can go and probably watch a football game, or like we were there when Roland Garros was on, the tennis, that sort of stuff. There's probably some sporting event going on in Paris. There's always things happening. I mean, I understand why people might not like it in the same way that I'm maybe not so keen on London. But there's probably a bit there that, you know, a bit of bitterness towards London because of like the investment there versus where we're northern and versus, you know, people moan in London because the train's 8 minutes late. We might not get a train for like 3 hours. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so there's a bit of personal gripe there. But I think Paris, from like a neutral perspective, I just think it's a fantastic city. There's loads going on. And it's like, if you were to think of like the most iconic places to visit and most iconic attractions in the world, that's got quite a few of them. And I think France, it has been for the past few years, or most of the past few years, been like the most visited country in the world. And Paris is probably like the most visited city. And in my opinion, it's for good reason. There's even a thing, isn't there? There's a syndrome. I think is it a lot of Japanese people, they read up on Paris, they visit, and then they have this like thing where I don't know if it's like some sort of illness where they feel really bad because it's so underwhelming. Paris, and it's not what I expected. I think they are pathetic. Grow up. Grow up. If you've got Paris syndrome, you need to get a life, honestly. And there's one thing not liking a place calling it overrated. There's another thing to have a syndrome named after it because it's not what it matched in your head. Just pathetic, honestly.
I get it. Paris, spot on with the stuff. There's loads of stuff to do. Same with London. There's shit to do. It's just when people are like, oh, it's the most beautiful place. Is it? The tower's cool, but it's surrounded by scammers.
But I just think it has become so... it's the overratedness has become so overrated now that it's actually a little bit underrated for me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but
that's a good thing to say, I guess. Paris has become so overrated that it's now underrated. That's your opinion?
That's my opinion, indeed.
All right. You got another one for me?
Yeah. So you've been to 77 cities?
I think it's 77.
77 countries. Which one did you find hardest to enter? None? You've never had an issue entering any country at all?
Never.
Really?
British.
But I mean, is there not been a visa that's been difficult to fill out or lengthy or...
Okay.
I don't mean necessarily difficult as in they've not wanted to let you into the country, but has there been any process or awkward? It could be awkward, it could be whatever.
I've got a straight up answer for that. India. I had to fly to Sri Lanka, apply for a visa in Sri Lanka to get into India because they removed e-visas. And I wasn't in England.
But why did they remove e-visas?
Just for us, just for Brits.
I'm sure they brought them back though.
Yeah, but after I visited.
Is it COVID?
I think it was to do with COVID, but I think they were trying to have a dig at Britain because we don't let them apply for e-visas or whatever.
Right, okay.
Me and Tanya were both in Maldives. We flew to Sri Lanka to get the Indian visa. She didn't need one. She could have done e-visa, but the Brit couldn't get an e-visa. So I had to give my passport to the commission or whatever in Sri Lanka to get a visa, a physical visa. So stupid. That's the answer, India.
Well, I've got a couple of different answers.
But you've been to a lot of Africa.
I have, and actually one of them is African. So I went to Angola last year around Easter time, and I had to apply for a visa before I went. Mm-hmm. All of like the image requirements online were like kilobytes. So they wanted like images given to them in like kilobytes worth of data, and I was uploading my photo to compression sites, and it wanted like my passport photo was like 42 kilobytes, and you don't realise how difficult it is to get it down to that size. It honestly, when I uploaded it, it was like 2 pixels. It was pointless. It was so grainy, you could barely tell it was me. But they were happy with that. Now, I'm guessing their infrastructure cannot handle megabytes of data from people, but I can't believe there's that many tourists applying for a visa for Angola. And it was quite expensive. It was about £130. But I actually had real difficulty getting all the image sizes because it wasn't just images of your passport photo. It was images like they wanted like a scan of your booking confirmation from websites. They wanted documents for the out of flight. So they obviously did.
And these all have to be kilobytes.
They had to be kilobytes. You couldn't upload. It was ridiculous. It took me hours to get them all down to a size where you could actually just about make out what was on them. Yeah. But also it fit in with their file sizes, and they wanted this. I think they wanted a specific file type as well, and that was proven to be a problem because the file type they wanted, it's like PNG or something, is slightly bigger than JPGs. Yeah. So that was an absolute nightmare. Got there in the end, but it took me hours to do. And then there's a couple more as well. So Russia wasn't the easiest visa to get in terms of there's a lot of forms you have to fill out, and if you literally make one spelling mistake, they will look at that as an excuse to not let you in. Yeah. Now, I did get in, but once you submit that, you've got to go to a Russian visa centre, which is in, there's one in Edinburgh, one in Manchester, and one in London. Unfortunately, I was living in Manchester at the time, so I went before work, but they take your biometrics, they take your passport off you, and then they send it off to wherever, I'm guessing their embassy, and send it you back, hopefully with a visa in it. Mine was, fortunately. But that was quite a lengthy process, and, you know, you go... you pay, I don't know, it's £150, £160 plus all the additional for the special delivery envelope they send it you back in and all that. So again, it's not cheap. I went to Armenia. So I turned up at the Armenian border. It was late in the morning. My flight was already a couple of hours delayed. Get to the front of the queue. I was maybe about 3/4 of the way back to start with. And the guy takes my passport and he goes, "Been to Azerbaijan?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Wait there." So I'm just literally stood there He wasn't doing anything with my passport. He just literally went off and talked to his mate for a few minutes. He was annoyed that I visited Azerbaijan, basically. Waits for everyone else in the queue to get served. They turn the lights off. So I'm thinking, am I stuck in the airport now? The fella who come to pick me up, he's been at the airport because my flight was delayed. He's been at the airport a couple of hours already. He's fuming. He's like ringing me up, not happy. I'm like, I'm literally stuck in passport control. Can you just hang on a few minutes more? He kept me around for about 15 minutes after the lights had gone off. He then turned the light on in his booth, come back into his booth, stamped the Armenia stamp directly over the Azerbaijan stamp and let me in. But I thought for a minute I wasn't actually going to get let in. And then the other one, it's actually, I've not applied for it, but it's difficult because I'm effectively at the moment banned from the US.
You're banned from the US?
So the United States of America, I am banned from the US.
Right.
Because I visited North Korea, as I've mentioned, I visited Cuba, and these are two of these countries that if you've been to these countries, you then try and enter America, you cannot get one of these visa waivers that your average Joe can go and get.
Yeah.
So if, like, my brother, for example, he wanted to go to New York tomorrow, he could apply for one of these visa waivers, it'd be accepted within 48 hours, and he'd be able to get on that plane and go. I can't do that. I'd have to go to the embassy in London, which has like it's several months waiting list.
Yeah.
I'd have to apply for a full tourist visa. And although when it's granted, it gives you 10 years, it's more expense, it's more time wasted. And I literally, if I wanted to go to America next month, or I had to go for work or something, I literally could not go.
Yeah.
So effectively at the moment, I am banned. And I know a few people have faced this. Simon Wilson mentioned it recently on a podcast as well. He's had the same thing. And I think he might have got himself sorted now. But it's just that I cannot go to America right now if I wanted to. I'd have to wait several months to get an appointment. I'd then have to explain myself in the American embassy, and obviously Americans are really strict with the security.
Yep.
So whether they'd accept my excuses, I'm being a tourist, I want to visit every country in the world, whether they'd see that as a fit and proper excuse for me to then enter their country, who knows? I'm not so sure. But hopefully I will be able to go back one day. But right now, that is the hardest country.
Have you been before?
Yeah, I've been three times. Been to New York 3 times. And then one of the annoying things is so I'm really into my American sports.
Yeah.
So all 4 of my American sports teams, the Jets, the Knicks, the Yankees and the Rangers, are all in New York. And I'd love to be able to go and fly. In fact, they fly from Liverpool Airport. You can connect through Dublin with Play, or you can connect through Reykjavik through Dublin with Aer Lingus, sorry, or you can connect through Reykjavik with Play. And the Play flights are like so cheap. You can fly to like New York return for like £300 or less. And I'd love to be able to take advantage of that, but I just can't at the moment. I'd love to be able to just go watch an NFL game, go on the Friday, watch an NFL game on the Sunday, come back on the Monday and be in work on the Tuesday, but I can't do that. I've not been able to take advantage of that connection facility yet. So it's sad, but hopefully, I don't think they'll lift the rules, but hopefully they will. So they only added North Korea on recently.
All right.
So they only added North Korea on, I'm talking like 5-6 years ago, but it was retrospective that it covered all trips since 2011.
So I think there's going to be at least somebody watching now who's going to say, I've heard you complain about Pakistan's visa process. I've just remembered. Pakistan's the answer. Okay. That was the hardest visa to get because of their incompetence and no other reason.
Okay.
So, as you know, and some people watching, I travel full time.
Yeah.
I'm very rarely in England, so I can't apply for visas in England because I'm not here. I was in Romania, and I don't know where Kurt was, but he said, let's go to Pakistan. So I applied online, and it says, choose your nearest visa centre. And I was like, I'll Dubai, because that's where I'm going to be. Joe's there. He chose there. That's where he's a resident. But obviously, my address is here. So it didn't arrive. I got asked to send a residence permit for Dubai. I responded with, I don't live in Dubai. I live in the UK. And they were like, you need to go to the embassy in the UK. I was like, no, just give me my e-visa. It's an e-visa. They didn't respond, so I went to the embassy in Dubai, and I just barged my way in. I was like, you need to answer me questions. The guy had no idea what to do, and I was like, I'm on holiday here, and I fly to Pakistan next week. Give me my visa. I'm a British tourist. He put us in with his boss, who was normal. He was educated. He was very normal, and he was like, okay, lads, why are you going? I was like, he's a YouTuber. We're going to make some videos, and he was like, cool. Off you pop.
Yeah, it was easy as that.
Yeah, but I had to barge my way in. And they wouldn't let me in to start. I couldn't just barge my way into a visa centre or embassy. I wasn't getting aggressive. I was just like, let me speak to someone because I'm not going back to England. I've got to get my visa. It should have been here last week. That's the most difficult. It was so stupid.
It's crazy how many jobs worths can get in the way of simple tasks that can make things difficult that should be easy. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there's probably been times in the past where I've encountered things that someone could have just given me the right answer straight away and the problem's solved.
Yeah.
But instead you've had to go on a wild goose chase for something that literally is some fella stamping a couple of forms and that's it. It's mental, isn't it? I've actually got a question for you. So it's not one I can answer, but as someone who travels full time, when you go to places, because you've obviously stayed in so many places across the world, so many different cities within countries, what do you count as you having lived there compared to you just being a visitor? Or would you not say you've lived in any other country in the world?
Good question. Although I was in Mexico for 3 months, I still wouldn't say I lived there. I was just on a long holiday. But I lived in France because I actually lived and worked in France when I was younger.
How long was that for?
2 years-ish.
Were you in the same place, based in the same?
Yeah, I lived in my house.
So would you say that's kind of, if you were setting like parameters for what is counting as being lived in and what isn't counting as being lived in, you have to be in like a permanent resident or one spot for a prolonged period of time?
Because if you look at all the places I've been, even ones where I've stayed for a month, I didn't live there. I was just there. I just existed.
Because I reckon there's some people who would say, I lived in Bali for a month.
Yeah.
And count that as they've actually lived in Indonesia. But I think I'd be with you. I think I'd have to, maybe whether it was 6 months or a year was the cut-off, I'd have to be in somewhere for a certain amount of time so I can feel like I've like become engrossed with, within the culture.
Yeah.
I've got under the skin of whether it was Paris or Bali or Argentina, wherever it might be. I've lived in that one place. And I think even if you were to, let's say you lived in France, but you went to France, but you stayed a week in Paris, you went a week in Nice, a week in Lyon, wherever it might be. I think there's that isn't really living there, even if you spent a prolonged period of time. I think it does you have to have some attachment to the place.
Well, when we met in Cancun, I was in that apartment for a whole month, but I didn't live there.
No.
It was just a long holiday. And then I was in a few other cities for another 2 months. I could have stayed for 6, but I still wouldn't have said I lived in Mexico, because my opinion on whether you visited a country and whether you live there is what their government say. No other government than France would ever say I lived in their country.
Yeah.
Because they would be like, no, you were just a visitor. You were on a tourist visa. You didn't work for an Indonesian company. You didn't sell to Indonesian people or whatever. So I did none of this stuff. I didn't rent a house. I was in a hotel or I was in an Airbnb. I wasn't like on council tax or whatever. I would say that if I just went and stayed in an Airbnb over there for 3 months, I'm not on the council tax, so I didn't live there.
Okay.
That was how I
council tax like that would be
like a government
kind of
thing.
Yeah.
So that's my answer for what makes you visit a country. If their government agrees you've been there, that's the answer.
And do you think this is something you're going to do indefinitely in terms of moving around, or?
I don't know, because I'm getting tired of flying. I hate it.
You hate flying?
Hate flying. It's the worst, one of the worst things in the world. But it's
Really?
a necessity for me to get to Dublin. I've got to fly or get a long boat. For me to get to Australia, I've got to fly. Hate it. Hate being stuck on a plane.
What? But are you scared of flying? Is it like a fear?
Sometimes I'm scared, but a lot of the time I'm just so bored. I would do anything else. Even though I'll be sat on my computer for 8 hours a day, even if I've got Wi-Fi on the plane, I'm like, I don't want this person sat there. I've got my girlfriend sat there. These people here are annoying me, them people there are annoying me. Stop making noise walking past me. I'm in a loud room with 300 people. I don't want to be there. I want to be in my own apartment.
And if you need to go to the toilet, you've got to say, can you just get out? And then it's a whole process, isn't it?
Well, I always book the 2 seats at the back on big planes. So there's no third person. Because if I fall asleep on a plane, someone wakes me up, I'll be furious because I can't sleep. If I do fall asleep and someone goes, can I go to the toilet? I'll be like, all right, I'm awake now for the next 8 hours.
I don't know how people can work on planes, mate.
I've done a lot of editing on planes.
Have you?
Yeah, but when you're on a shit little plane,
and I
have to actually sit like this.
It's so, yeah, it's not good for your posture.
Yeah.
It's not. It'd be good if you had like an actual work, or like the seats were made, so you, especially on long haul flights, so you could actually just have your laptop as you've got it now, rather than having to like tilt it up and wait.
Yeah.
Like I've done that myself before.
Got an upbeat question for you. Best country in the world?
Poland, Forza Poland.
I'm on board. There's one major issue with Poland, and it's the anti-abortion thing. That's the only problem I've got with Poland.
What? So they're just against it.
Yeah, you have to go somewhere else. Get rid of that. Best country in the world.
Yeah, there's for me, Poland. You look at it as a country. Everyone just thinks they come over here, they take our money, blah blah blah. They just think of this like Soviet era, grey, dull place. You'd only really see it in a movie. Actually, it is like a country of like incredible contrast. You've got like the beaches in the north, so you've got like all by Gdansk and Sopot and all that. You've got like beautiful beaches. In the south, you've got like skiing in the mountains. You've got all these cities that each offer something a bit different, but still like retain a common Polish heritage. And you've got things there that are like of like real cultural significance. So I mean, it's where World War II started. You go to Gdansk, you can see the beach where all the German troops stormed to start World War II. Obviously, in Krakow, you've got things like Auschwitz, and which obviously isn't nice, but it's fascinating. Schindler's Factory. Again, in Gdansk, you've got like Lenin Shipyard, and that was where like Lech Wałęsa started off like the Solidarity movement, and it like brought like trade unionism into Poland. You've got like in Wrocław, it's kind of a bit of a tech hub now, so they've got a lot of like companies moving there to start operations in that space, and also they have proper seasons, so you can go to Poland in the summer and you will get sun.
Yep.
You can go to Poland in the winter and it'll be cold and it'll be snowing, but you know what you're getting. Whereas here, it could be anything on any day.
Yeah.
You could get sun in September and heavy rain in August. Like that's the kind of thing that happens, and that's why I love Poland. Like you know what you're getting, and also it's getting a little bit more expensive, but relatively speaking, it's still fairly cheap.
I like it. I've been there lots. Been to all over it. I remember you first told me this a few years ago, and I was like, really, Poland? And I went a bit more, and I was like, yeah, all right, I get it now. But I'll throw another one in. Argentina.
Okay.
It's up there at the top.
Yeah.
Obviously, in Latin America, you get hassled constantly of people shouting, hey, amigo. Didn't happen in Argentina.
No.
I went throughout the country. I thought I was going to get shit for being British.
I did as well. Yeah.
I didn't get it.
No.
So I got in a taxi in Ushuaia, in the most southerly city in the world, isn't it? Got in, and he was like, where are you from? I was like, England. He was like, oh, cool. I was like, is that Chile there? I tried to change the subject instantly. You can see Chile. And he went, oh, chinga Chile. And I was like, all right, fucking hell. At least I was like, yeah. No, but I was just trying to get him away from talking about Britain, because I thought, as soon as I mentioned Britain, he'd be like, oh, the Falklands, Malvinas are over there. Whatever. No one mentioned anything. All fine, all dead happy. Everything worked. Everything was super cheap, because their currency's fucked. The metro in Buenos Aires works great. Things are modern, the food's good, the people are friendly.
The football, if you like football,
Exactly.
the football culture is incredible.
I mentioned Liverpool to someone and they were like, oh, McAllister. I was like, exactly. Yeah, we've got some common ground. Easily the best place in Latin America.
Yeah.
There's no, Uruguay's second, but it's still far away. And then
I don't think there's as much going on in Uruguay, though.
It's just a small Buenos Aires. But it's a cool place. I think that's the safest country in Latin America, Uruguay.
Yeah, it is.
Apparently Montevideo is one of the safest capitals in the world.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, I felt very safe there.
Yeah, I did as well.
I don't feel unsafe many places, but that felt like it was like a nice part of Italy, kind of.
Yeah.
But Argentina, up there at the top.
No, I agree. I mean, I've only been to Buenos Aires, so I can't really comment on the rest of the country, but I know in the south they do have like amazing mountains, obviously, like Ushuaia down that end of the country looks really cool. I would like to explore more of it, and obviously I will go back one day, but yeah, Buenos Aires, it's such like a rich culture, and you get such it's kind of like a European city with with that kind of Latin America freedom and feeling to it, and you just it is difficult to beat. But I think for me, I'm probably biased because I think I've probably visited Poland more times than I've visited any other country before, and also it's cheap and it's close. But I just from when I first went, I was expecting it's going to be a bit of a dump. This
I thought that.
And then I went,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh my god, this place is
Yeah,
sick!
I
Like
remember you told me.
I want to live here. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
could genuinely live in Poland, and like you get a lot of racist people with this preconception of them. But I'm telling you now, if it wasn't for money, they would not be here.
No.
If they could earn the exact same at home, why the hell would they come to the UK? In short, they wouldn't.
They would
So,
not. Dubai's overrated.
Oh, I agree. It's good,
It's
but I think
alright.
it's got too many people going there now that it and loving it, that it almost makes it overrated by default. Bit like with Paris.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not almost, like my opinion on it's not based on what's actually there. It's just like the public perception's kind of distorted the view of it one way.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. There's loads of stuff to do, and obviously, you know, all the buildings and stuff. I mean, you got the world's biggest building there. Like, it is cool. But yeah, it's not. I've only spent a couple of days. I've literally done, like, both times I've been, I've done long layovers
Yeah.
just so I can literally spend all day there and then come back on the plane. So I've not actually, like, stayed overnight, unless you counted sleeping on the airport floor.
Yeah.
But have you spent, like, a prolonged period of
Yeah,
time?
I've been there for like, I think 3 times, all for a week or so. It's just alright. If things work, the metro takes fucking ages to get from one end to the other. Just because it's massive.
Yeah. There's a
'cause-
lot of walking involved, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's like a long city, not a deep city.
Yeah.
But to get into the deeper bits where the like apartments are, taxis take fucking ages. It's like going to Manchester from here.
Yeah.
It's just so far away.
We've talked about overrated places, but, like, what would you say? I don't think we've said enough about, like, underrated places. So we'll go with country first. I'd like to do both country and city, but I think go with country first. Do you have anywhere that you would say is underrated and that more people should have on their radar?
Good question. Georgia.
Georgia?
Have you been?
Okay. I have,
So
yeah.
did you do the train through all 3, or did you fly?
No, I literally flew between.
Georgia, cool place, boss food. It's kind of got everything. It's freezing in winter. It's got mountains. It's dead cheap. Food's excellent, and
Got
in summer
beaches.
it's hot. It's got beaches over at
Batumi,
Batumi. Yeah. Problem is, it's next door neighbour is Russia, so there's constant threat of invasion. So
And I think one of the best things about it is that I think they're the only country in the world for British passport holders that you can literally stay for a year.
yeah, you can.
365-day visa.
You can.
Just rock up.
Yeah.
Here you go. And the good thing is their food's great there. I don't know if you had any of the food
Yeah,
in Georgia. But
Kinkali.
is that the bread with
No,
the...
Kinkali's the thing, dumpling things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have one of them where it's like a big one and they cut it open and it's little smaller ones inside?
I've not seen
That was pretty cool. Got one of them. And they have this, I can't think what it's called.
Khachapuri.
Khachapuri.
Yeah,
And like the bread.
Yeah.
With the, oh my God.
Yeah, it's very good.
Incredible. Like literally look that up and go to
Georgia for
It's
that.
And what I liked about Georgia as well is they've got their own like alphabet and their own like language, but because it's so difficult to understand, everything's also in English.
Yeah.
So you've got that kind of, a bit like when you go to Japan and you see all these symbols everywhere and it makes you really feel like you're travelling, like you're on holiday. You get that effect in Georgia without having the difficulty of understanding it because they just translate everything anyway.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get around because most people do speak English
Exactly.
or speak enough English to assist you or to help you get by.
Have you got what's your answer?
I do. Mauritania.
I've never been.
So if
obviously.
you've never heard of Mauritania, it's a country in Western Africa and it's not really visited at all. If you go on the FCDO, which is the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office website, it's kind of like our government's official travel advice. A lot of the country is in red, so it's seen as dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stuff that is red is just a big portion of Sahara Desert, so there's literally no one there. So your only risk of dying is like dehydration. But if you're on a tour and you're in big jeeps and stuff, you've got air conditioning with you, you've got food, you've got drink with you, so that's not going to happen. But I went on a tour there a couple of years ago, and we flew directly to the capital, Nouakchott. I think it was visa on arrival, about €50, really easy to get in. And then we spent a night in the capital, so we had food, and then we literally set off for the desert. So we got in these big 4x4, like pickup truck type things, and they just literally, we were driving down this like motorway, and then all of a sudden it just veered off into the desert, and then we were just off the beaten track for 10 days, I think it was. We did camping in the Sahara, a night, well, it wasn't a night out, but it's a dry country, so they don't drink there, but we had like a night with the local people, and they like lit a campfire and did dances for us. We learned how to bake bread underground in the sand. That was really cool. But one of the most amazing things to see was they have like canyons that are not on par with the Grand Canyon, but of that like similarity to it. So like it almost looks like in some places like you're on the moon, and there's these amazing rock formations that you never see, you never hear about, you never see online, you never see in books, you never see in like brochures or anything, and they're just like amazing to feast your eyes on. And then you actually get into like the Sahara Desert, and you've got these perfect, I mean perfect sand dunes. You walk on these sand dunes, your feet will appear, or your footprint will appear, and within 5 minutes, it will have been covered with sand, filled in with sand again, naturally, with just the wind blowing sand across them, and it was like you were never there. Wow. It's incredible. And one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my entire life was we were camping in the Sahara Desert, and we climbed up this dune when it's like sun started to set. It was kind of on its last legs, and we waited there until it got dark. And I just looked up, and there was nothing for about 100 miles around. We're in the middle of this desert. We look up in the sky, pitch black, and I've never seen stars like it. It was almost like being in a planetarium where they've like visually enhanced them. Yeah. You felt like you were floating in space. I'm not someone who relaxes, and I don't like to just chill by the beach or by the pool. I like to do stuff. But in that moment, I was just like so at peace, but at the same time, realizing just how like small and insignificant people are, because you've just looking up in space, you can see this tapestry across the sky of all these stars and galaxies and constellations. Yeah. Shooting stars were like happening all the time. You could just see everything. It was perfect. The wind died down, so there wasn't loads of sand blowing in the way, no light pollution, not a cloud in the sky. Yeah. It was incredible. So if you ever go to Mauritania, you have to go stargazing, and naturally you probably will do if you're camping in the Sahara anyway. And then the pièce de résistance of the whole trip was, I don't know if you heard of it, the iron ore train. So it's this train that essentially you pick up in the middle of nowhere. It'll stop. The train's about 2 or 3 kilometers long. So it's not like it's not just like, oh, like a train you get here where it's 3 or 4 carriages. It's like huge. Right. It's massive. It will literally stop at this station in the middle of the desert. You hop on top. You've got about 30 seconds to dig some of this iron ore that it carries, which is basically powdered, refined metal. You chuck some over the side, create yourself like a little ledge, and you literally sit on top of this carriage, go to sleep through the night as you're going through the desert, and then the sun starts to rise maybe about 6 in the morning, and then you can get up and you can start seeing stuff on the horizon, and you can the area around you brightens up. And you can literally get loads of cool photos. You can stand on top of this iron ore, and this train's moving like 35, 40 miles an hour through the desert, and you're just standing on top of one of the carriages, not a care in the world.
That's mad.
It is amazing. And you've got to cover up because this fine metal gets through your clothing. So you've got to put like layers on, and you've got to put a balaclava on because you don't want to breathe in powdered metal, essentially, because it's obviously not good for you. Yeah. But it's one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. The photos are amazing. And it was just, it's like the crowning moment of that trip. You do all of the touring around and the camping beforehand on most trips, and then you get on the train and you ride it from the middle of the desert to the coast. I think it's called Nouadhibou is the place you ride it to, and it's like their biggest port city. It's the second biggest city in the country, and you get off there and basically you can strip down and you're just filthy, and you get in some shower and try your best to wash off, but you're just thinking the whole time about that amazing trip you just had, and you're on it for 14 hours. Wow. So I know you were saying you were bored before, like on planes and stuff, but I think if you actually went on this train, it's not the same as just sitting there waiting for something to happen. Just everything around you is like an attraction. You need to go for a piss, go off the side of a moving train in the desert. It's hard work, and like you like splashing yourself when you're doing it, because you don't want to like lean over too far and fall over the carriage, but at the same time you don't want to like basically piss where you're standing. So even that's difficult, but it is some experience. And for me, it's one of the most underrated countries in the world, because the natural attraction side of it it's not really talked about. It's unknown. I don't think many people would ever say Mauritania is somewhere they'd want to visit. There's a few French tourists because it's a former French colony, but certainly in this country, I don't think I've met anyone other than the people who went on the tour with who've been to Mauritania. So for me, as just an outstanding place of natural beauty, and just to have experiences that you struggle to have anywhere else, that has to be right up there as underrated for me. What would you say is, it doesn't have to be a city, but it could be like an area or a place, but what's like the city or the place that you think is most underrated? So we've had the whole country, but on a more specific level, where would you say? Okay.
The best beach in the world was in Dominican Republic, but next to Haiti on the border.
Right, okay.
So it's a place called Pedernales, and to get there I had to go from Punta Cana on a nice coach. The coach was decent, to Santo Domingo. Stayed there a night. I got another nice coach to a place called Barahona, and then there I was asking everyone, how do I get to Pedernales? Because I didn't have a car. I didn't have a credit card. It got cancelled when I put it in a machine. Now I take 5 or 6 with me in case that happens, because you can't rent a car without one. And then they were like, you take a guagua to the border of Haiti. And I was like, well, it's a guagua. It's a minibus. Like a normal minibus that we would have here, but Dominicanized. So there is a speaker this big in the seat, in the first passenger seat. You get in the car, somebody sits with the speaker between the legs. You sit in your seats, and then they put these pieces of wood between the seats in that walkway. People sit on them, and then they close the door, music on. It's like 7 a.m. and the person there is like, and I'm sat there going, fucking turn the fucking music off. Just like 4 hours in this bus and the music's just blaring. And what annoyed me even more, because I think that's so weird and rude. I hate people making noise. But I got it was their thing. But that woman had to sit there the whole time with this subwoofer between her legs. They're just eating food, opening the window and throwing the wrappers out the window.
Really?
And I'm sat there and I'm like, look at how nice this place is. That's why there's trash everywhere. Stop throwing your shit out the window.
It's crazy.
I actually slapped the back of some fella's head because he was eating like bags of crisps, and he'd open the window, throw it out, and close it again because we had aircon on. And I slapped the back of his head. I was like, "Don't do that again." And he was like, "Ugh. Keep the window fucking." He tried to do it again, and I just held the window. I was like, "You're not throwing trash out. Just wait. Put it on the floor in here." But his mentality was, "I don't care. That's not my house. I'll make." And then there was trash.
Yeah, once he throws it out, it's not his problem anymore.
Exactly. But when we got to Pedernales, tourists don't go there. It is the border of Haiti. There's a river, a dry river with no border on, but there are guards all the way down with shotguns to stop the Haitians coming over. We just walked to the beach one day, not a piece of trash, not a twig on the beach, just white sand, clear blue sea, no people, nothing. The people who lived in that town were just working or whatever. Clear. There isn't a better beach in the world than that beach. There was slight waves, 40 degrees, perfect water. There was no fish. It was weird. There was no fish in the sea. And then clear sand. And then a couple of steps back, people selling drinks and stuff.
But there's no like tourists?
No tourists. No. Nobody running on the beach to sell me stuff. Actually, I don't like going to the beach, but I enjoyed that.
Wow.
I walked back, bought a rubber ring, was just flying around in the sea on the rubber ring. That's the most underrated place in the world, easily.
Yeah.
Okay. You have the problem of one of the most dangerous countries in the world being 40 yards away.
Oh, is that literally, it's close to the border?
Obviously we can see the Wirral over there. Yeah. It was like, so where I was on the beach was here. Probably by that EasyJet plane, the first one down there, that was Haiti. That's how close it was.
Wow.
But if you tried to walk there, it was where the exit of the river was. There was just guards. You just couldn't. If you want, you could go through the border legally. It was during COVID though, so if I went through, they stamped me, and I was going to Greece like 3 weeks later or 2 weeks later or something, and Greece wouldn't have let me in because Haiti was on the red list or something.
Right. Okay.
So I didn't get to go, and that's very annoying for me. You went to Cuba. Did you stay in a tourist resort type thing?
No, I stayed in a Casa Particular.
Ah, right.
Which is basically a house that's being converted. It's a bit like almost like a B&B kind of thing. It was an incredible place. Genuinely difficult because you can't get a bottle of water just like anywhere. So like honestly, the first day I got there, I woke up and I had some water left that I got whatever airport I'd flown from. I think it was Cancun. And I'd finished that, maybe half a bottle of water, used some of it to brush my teeth, went out, and one of the things I was like, I want to go to the shop and get some water. In Cuba, there are no convenience stores. It's not like here where you can just go to a Tesco, or in America or wherever, you can go to a 7-Eleven and just pick up some groceries. There's literally no normal shops. So like even the supermarkets there are like rooms probably half the size of this. They've got shelves in there and they might not have things, or they might have things. Like it is literally, you could not do a weekly shop there with a shopping list. You just have to go to the shop and see if there are things in. There's a lot of financial insecurity in the country at the moment. I think particularly following COVID, obviously that hit them hard. What I was being told when I was in Cuba is that they were heavily reliant, because they're a communist country, they were heavily reliant on the Soviet Union in like the 70s and 80s for a lot of their goods and services. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the whole time they'd been reliant on them, they hadn't been developing their own infrastructure and industry. So the Soviet Union goes, their support wanes, and then they actually face problems within their own country, weak currency, no one really wants to trade with them because they've got nothing to offer, and obviously it plunges them into a bit of like difficulty economically. So now it kind of still, you can feel it today. Obviously there's an trade embargo with the US as well, which doesn't help them either, because obviously they're really close to the US and they could probably make a lot of money from US customers. Unfortunately for them, there's an embargo, so it's not so easy. And it was just difficult to find somewhere to buy a bottle of water. I found somewhere in the end, and there was a couple of houses that literally sell them out the front door because people want to make money in any way that they can there. But yeah, that was a really crazy place to visit, and like it's like being in a movie set. You go back, all the cars are like really old, all the houses are crumbling. It reminds me of Rome in terms of you've got all these like old buildings that have sort of fallen into a state of disrepair, but it gives it some character. It's actually a redeeming quality rather than it being this is a shithole. It's not. It's beautiful. There's a lot of litter around. There's people just dump stuff. There's a bit like you were saying in Dominican Republic, but what's just struck me is how difficult it is to get a bottle of water. If you're not in the tourist area, you might struggle. It's easier to buy a bottle of beer than it is to buy a bottle of water in Cuba. That's how like dire the situation is there. Went to where they've got a John Lennon Park. So obviously we're at Liverpool John Lennon Airport right now, and they've got a Beatles bar. It's called the Yellow Submarine Bar, and I went in there, and the pint was like 40p.
Right.
It was so cheap. Like the beer was like ridiculously cheap. If you go to the tourist areas, it's a lot more expensive, but this was kind of in one of the suburbs of Havana. So yeah, it's really cheap. It's great value for money. Just make sure you have cash, because I had to go without having dinner one night because I didn't have enough cash to ration for the rest of the trip. There's no ATMs to get anything out of. It's literally, you've got the cash when you're there. If you don't have the cash, you're screwed. It might be a bit different at a tourist resort, one of the beach resorts, not in Havana, but in Havana itself, it's really difficult to get by, and it's a world away from what we have at home.
Yeah, and one of my questions was, what's the worst government in the world? The answer is Cuba. Russia's up there, but the Cuban people have nothing because of the communist government stealing all the money. That's what communism is. It's supposed to be everyone's equal, but communism is everybody's equal except for the government, who can do whatever they want and have all the money, have mansions, while everybody else is poor. All of the farmland, they don't farm. Why don't Cubans farm? They're not allowed to farm. It's got nothing to do with an embargo. Because I've got a video on my channel where me and Kurt Kaz are talking about Cuba, and I would say 90% of the comments are going, it's because of the US embargo. It's not. That's why they can't import some stuff. They can trade with other countries. The problem is the government takes everything. They own everything. If you save up, I spoke to a guy in Cuba, his family saved up to get a house that was big enough. They saved for like 30 years. I can't remember the actual dates. They moved in, straight away the government went, no, we've got a bigger family, need to go in there. Took the house off them, put them back in a shit house. They can just do that. They can just take your house off you. But all of the government officials live in nice houses, have nice cars, travel abroad, eat nice food, while everybody else is starving. Then why wouldn't they let them farm and then use the farming stuff to feed the country? It's so stupid. And I can't take anyone serious who thinks communism is anything other than a prison.
I would say, I mean, it's difficult for me to comment on the worst government because I'm not really like massively into my politics. Like I quite like the history of things, and like if you get told some fact that you know factors into politics, like that's interesting. But I just find it so boring. Like
Same, yeah.
I'm of the view that like I'm probably not going to be able to change stuff by myself. I could if maybe I tried, but like not change things by myself, but have some effect, even if it was at like a really small local level. But I don't care. I don't want to do that with my life. Like I'll leave politics to the people who are interested in it. That's fine with them. But it's not something that really like excites me or gets me impassioned. It's just boring. It's a bit like, you know, you're talking about things like all the COVID stuff, these inquiries, Rishi Sunak, and you go online and like, you got the right and left, and they're arguing one side of the coin, the other arguing the other side of the coin, and like they're both just like petulant children.
Yeah.
If people could like work in harmony and work together, things would get done a lot better. But I'm just not interested in getting like hating people over politics, and that's one of the reasons I like visiting countries, because a lot of countries, people form their opinions based on what they hear off the news. And what they hear off the news is what their government's decided to do. But if you actually go and meet the average person in a lot of these countries, they're so far removed from what the actions of their government. It's literally like pathetic. Like people carry on as if I'm Boris Johnson or you're Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
We're nothing like them. But someone in, I don't know, Venezuela might view the British as the leaders basically and as the people in government. But that's just not how countries work.
No one in this city is anything like Boris Johnson or Rishi Sunak.
No, not at all. But like that. That's not what people see from the outside, and people's perceptions are influenced by the little information they know. And I mean, that's all they've got to go off. So I understand that. But that's why I implore people to travel more, and I really want people to see the world, is because I think by actually going out and meeting these people, you just naturally become more tolerant, more understanding, more accepting of everyone. And I just think that's really a benefit. Obviously, there's environmental aspects which aren't as good. But like, why wouldn't you want people to do that? And in terms of like the worst government, I don't really have like an in-depth answer. Although I remember during the first wave of COVID, the fella from Belarus, the dictator, that Lukashenko, or whatever you say his name, I think it's the only non-Russian dictatorship left in Europe. I remember him saying something like, the best way to stave off COVID is farm work, vodka and saunas. And I don't think they fared too well, Belarus. They kept a lot of stuff open. They were the only like European football league going throughout COVID, so I was like following the football there. But I mean, if that's your advice to your citizens on how to combat COVID, you know, it's probably not going too well. It's probably up there with what did Donald Trump say? Neck some bleach and that should sort you out.
Dirtiest country you've ever been to?
I would probably say Uganda wasn't the cleanest of places. Now, it's nothing to do with the actual people, but like on one day I just wandered around. So I went to the capital, Kampala, and a lot of people, like I would say Cairo's really crazy. A lot of people would say some Indian cities are really crazy. Kampala was also on that level, like cars everywhere, people just on the go, non-stop, 24 hours a day. Like it was mad. Car horns are kind of like the backdrop to that city. So if you hate them, if you hate them, maybe Uganda's one for you to miss, or go to maybe the countryside there and see some of the animals and stuff. But I remember I walked through this. It's like the biggest slum in the city. Its name escapes me, but I met this Ugandan fella along the way, and he was like the director of an orphanage, and he took me through this area, and there was just like crap everywhere. The streets were mud, so like at one point you couldn't, like, we physically could not walk on the street because the mud had sunk in and it was just filled with water. So we had to like climb over like a barrier and like walk along this narrow barrier to basically like a balance beam to make sure we could get to where we needed to go safely. And yeah, there was just people discarding things left, right, and centre. It wasn't where, oh yeah, just go and put it in the bin. There was no like real pavements. There was no road, so there's not going to be, you know, a bin on a lamppost somewhere, is there? It wasn't brilliant. Some of Kampala's okay, but they even had like a golf course there, and it was just people were just like walking on it.
Right.
They were just like no care for this. Like, you could maintain the golf course, it's pointless for people just wander around on it and stuff. It was, yeah, there was no real, almost kind of like, you felt like a respect. But I think when you get into kind of the richer area of the city, you had actual roads and it was a little bit neater and tidier and there wasn't crap everywhere. But yeah, in the slums, I mean, again, I'm going to like the worst part. If you come to somewhere in Liverpool that was really bad, and wander around, I don't know, Norris Green or whatever, and wander around there, you might see more litter than you might see, I don't know, in the city centre. It might not look as clean, and that's just like any city. But I think that one probably stood out to me the most, and it didn't help that they didn't have like actual infrastructure in these parts of the slums, because it made it like difficult to stay. I don't think it's the people's fault. I think it just, the lack of actual government planning in those areas makes it difficult to stay clean. How about yourself?
Pakistan.
I was going to say, you must have some.
Pakistan is the answer, unfortunately. People in Pakistan are generally pretty cool, but there's just piles of trash. It's like it's been moved, but it's in a big pile. So you've got like a house has fallen down between two shops, put all the trash there, and the cows sleep in the trash. So if you can watch some of the videos where if we're driving down in the tuk-tuk and like the central reservation is just piled with trash, cows, people are sleeping in the trash. It's so mad. The comments in the videos were, it's the government's fault. It's not the government's fault that you're putting trash on the floor. Because you were talking about Uganda then. There isn't a road. There is in Karachi and Hyderabad. There are fully paved roads. A truck can come and take the trash away, but it doesn't. You can go put it in the bin. So I didn't throw any trash on the floor when I was in Pakistan. I put it in the bin because there are bins.
Yeah.
So why is everyone else just throwing the shit on the floor? I don't have an answer for it.
I think it's like a cultural thing. They've just grown up. That's how it is. So they just carried it on themselves.
Don't know. But when I went, because I stayed in a nicer part of the DHA of Karachi, there wasn't trash there. But there was outside Clifton Mall, where it was a brand new mall. Inside looked like any mall in Europe. But outside there was trash everywhere. The beach was full of trash. There was like cracks in the pavement and the sewer was just going past, so it was obviously stunk. People were throwing trash in there. They were spitting everywhere. It was filthy.
It almost does sound like a cultural thing, that like it's like there's no one telling them not to do it. I don't know if you saw any signs up saying don't litter or anything or whatever. So, maybe it's something that, although, it's not the government's fault, that maybe they need to resolve. I
said this in one of the episodes. This is filthy. And somebody commented and it stuck with me. No, it's clean, but just not to European standards. No, it's filthy to anyone's standards. There's shit and trash everywhere. That's not European standard. It's worldwide standard. Any planet, that is filth. Just tidy it up.
And there are plenty of shitholes in Europe,
Loads,
so it's not like there is a European standard, really. There's just either it's clean or it's not.
Yeah, it was not clean. Yeah. That was the end of it. Okay. Loudest people are from which country?
Loudest people?
Loudest, just in general, dead loud people.
I don't know whether you would say would they be the loudest people? The loudest people in, maybe not in voice, but in terms of just the noise they seem to generate. It's got to be Egyptians. My God, when I went to Cairo. So the thing I noticed about Cairo was actually after I left, because it was just the absence of noise. Like, you go to bed at night and there's car beeping, there's people banging around, there's no, even in the later hours, there's no sort of, they don't feel as though they need to start being a bit quieter. They will just continue on, whatever. There's that many people, there's 20 million people or something in Cairo. People just go about the business how they want to go about the business, and that's fine. That's their culture, and that's the way they are. And it's cool because it's I do see it as a cultural experience, but it's just relentless. And it was amazing. I think funnily enough, I flew to Lebanon, so I flew from Cairo to Beirut. And when I got out in Beirut, it was just I got to my hotel, and it was just serene. And you're like, right. I'm not in Cairo anymore. Yeah. I got that feeling, but. Yeah, you go to a market and they all have the megaphones out and stuff playing. To be honest with you, I love the fact that there's things going on all the time. There's stuff to capture, to capture your interest no matter where you're going. I think that's great, and I'd rather that than nothing going on. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you just if people just chilled out a little bit more,
Yeah.
I think it would help them. And in hotter countries, I think when people get hot and heated, they start getting a bit more aggressive and a bit more like caring a bit less about other people, if I'm being honest. And because like it's obviously hot in Egypt a lot of the time,
Yeah.
I don't think that helps. So like I think that helped, like the climate there helps get people worked up faster, have less patience,
Yeah.
and therefore you're just bashing around into things, making loads of noise. Not one car you see in Cairo, like, is scot-free. Like, so it's got a dent in the side, it's got a scrape or a scratch on it.
Yeah.
I would hate to drive there, but even more so that like everything they do is just beeping a horn or making some form of racket.
It's a good answer. I've never been, but that kind of dwarfs my answer because I had two. Americans are very loud abroad, just
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
people, they shout, they make lots of noise.
They like the attention, I think, as well.
Maybe. And then Colombia, because they just play music all day, every day. That's the first thing they do. 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 3 a.m., same song over and over again. But comparing it to what you've just said, I think your answer is better. Egypt are the loudest. They make the most noise, Egyptians.
Yeah.
There could be another country that we've not been to, but I think that's probably the right answer. Most dangerous country in the world?
Dangerous country in the world? I mean, you're going to have to go with like Yemen or something like that.
Yeah.
But most dangerous country I've been to, funnily enough, it's dangerous because of the experience I had there. So again, different countries will bring about different experiences. And I think if you're going to be kind of somewhat objective when you visit a place, to go somewhere and have an experience and then base your entire like perception of that country on your one experience is a bit harsh. But the place where I felt least safe, I would say maybe, was Morocco. Mm-hmm. So I went to Marrakesh and I was going through the Medina. The Medina is kind of like this like maze of it's like a big market, but it's like a maze of streets in there. So within about 2 minutes, you're lost.
Yeah.
It's not easy to find your way out. Once you've gone into a certain part, it's hard to retrace your steps because everything looks similar or the same.
Yeah.
There's so many people knocking around in there. You know, you lose your orientation. And we ended up coming out the back of the Medina, and we were looking for this museum. And we just asked some fella on the side of the road, do you know like where this museum is? And he's like, yeah, I'll tell you, it's literally around the corner. So he took me and my girlfriend at the time round to this museum, and we walk in, and like she turns around to me and goes, you know he's going to be out there when we get out of this museum. I was like, no, he won't. He's just showing us where it was. And anyway, she was right.
Yeah.
He was waiting there for us, and then I was like, all right, mate. And he was like this, and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, money. Okay. Well, for what? He's like, I took you here, and he's like, actually, it's okay. Come with me, and like tried to take us on a bit of a tour. So he walks off a little bit, like keeping an eye on us, and we followed him for a little bit, and he tried taking us into a bit more of a dangerous area, and he starts demanding money off me. I'm saying, I'm not like giving you any money. You literally showed me round the corner.
Yeah.
Like, why do you want money for that? And he grabs me by the arm, and he literally raises his fist up to me, and he's like threatening to hit me. I said, go on, hit me then, mate. And it won't work out well for you.
Yeah.
Obviously trying to put on like a bit of a brave face kind of thing. But like in my head, I'm thinking like, I don't want anything to kick off with my girlfriend. Like if I was on my own, I'd feel almost more safe. Yeah. But being with her, I was a bit more worried. And I said, go on, try it. And then like I grabbed his other arm, kept it there. And I said, you're not doing anything. You're not getting any money off me. I said no to him. And then he tried spitting at me, and his mouth was that dry. Literally no saliva came out. And eventually he left us to it. But like other people, like the locals, started like looking over.
Yeah.
And I thought he's going to try and get them on side because he started speaking, to be Arabic or Moroccan to them. And I was thinking like, Jesus Christ, it's all going to kick off here. Unfortunately, it didn't. But where we carried on walking, we were like completely lost by this point. And we were walking down this road, and these kids come up to us and said, like, you shouldn't be in this part of town, like honestly turn around and go back. So I said, okay, then we turned around, and they actually showed us the way and didn't expect any money. These kids showed us the way back into the Medina, and off we went. But that was the only time I felt a little bit uncomfortable, and I would say it was a little bit dangerous. But any country I've been to is truly dangerous because a lot of the perceptions of these countries are formed by people who've never been. So like Mexico, before I went there, like it's the murder capital of the world. They've got like 8 of the cities have the highest homicide rates. Blah blah blah. Go, the friendliest people you could wish to
Mexicans
meet.
that could be an answer. Mexicans funniest.
Mexicans are fun. Yeah, they're all up for a laugh. They're all up for a good time. Get them on the tequila.
Exactly, they're boss.
I would say the dangerous countries are probably ones I'm yet to visit. The likes of Libya, Yemen, Palestine at the moment is obviously dangerous. But when I went, it was fine.
Exactly.
You just went across it. I've never been to Gaza, but went to the West Bank.
Yeah.
That was pretty chilled out. Really enjoyed that. But yeah, unless, I mean, maybe you can trumpet you've been somewhere a bit more dangerous, but for me, it's countries I've not been to.
Similar things to you, where people have tried threatening me, and I think these guys who randomly threaten are used to trying to do it to intimidate tourists. Because my thought then was, how big was this guy to intimidate you? Because you're big.
Yeah, so not like he was skinny and he wasn't.
Exactly. Yeah. Most people in most countries, so outside of Europe, most people are tiny. Someone tries to intimidate you in Latin America, they're 5'2". They've tried it. It certainly doesn't intimidate me. There'd have to be 3. Because as soon as you said that, I was like, this guy must have been fucking massive. But then I was like, it's Morocco. He's not going to be that big. Maybe in Algeria. I've been threatened a few times, but it didn't turn into anything. But I've been to Ukraine a few times since Russia invaded, so that's definitely the answer right now. But when that's over, it'll go back to being safe.
But did anything happen when you were there?
The day after we left, it did. But in the place we were, so Lviv got attacked. It was either the day or 2 days after, right next to where we stayed. But when I was there, the drones were flying over the top because I was in the centre. So they were flying over.
Russian drones or Ukrainian drones?
No, Russian drones. Yeah, you know the Shahed ones. Well, Iranian. You know the unmanned like attack fucking whatever they are.
But did they look like they were shaping up to attack where you were? Or?
Yeah, they were flying over to hit somewhere. But they literally fly overhead. You can see them. So they're like tiny planes that fly past, being controlled to hit something.
But were you worried when you saw them, or did you know they weren't going to?
Didn't see them, but they fly over every day constantly. But they get blown up by the air defense system. So some of them get through.
Yeah.
But it is, if one drops, you're fucked.
You're gone. Yeah.
Which country had the most scammers or the most annoying people, the touts? So if you walk around as a tourist, you're going to get harassed constantly.
Do you want to go first?
All right.
Must I have a little ponder?
Colombia is up there. You can't walk anywhere without somebody asking you for money or to show you around, like you said in Morocco. Oh, let me show you over here. I don't need you to take me over there, and I don't want to pay you to do it. Can you imagine walking around Liverpool and going, excuse me, mate, how do I get to Lime Street? And I'm going, yeah, come here, I'll walk with you, I'm on that way. Never. Not even a homeless person would ask you that in the street. If I asked the homeless guy how do I get to Lime Street, he'd go, it's just down there, mate, and then you just walk off. Seems to be in some countries, especially in Latin America, any interaction means that you should give them money. I hate it. But I've not been to Egypt, and I've not been to Morocco yet, and I think they're probably going to be the answer for most people.
So I actually did a vlog. That reminds me when you said the Egypt and Morocco. I did a vlog in Jordan. I visited Petra. It's actually my most viewed video.
There you go. I've been there.
And I got harassed in Petra. So basically, these people, the Bedouins, or they claim to be, as soon as you get in the gate, you've bought your entrance ticket, everything like you want to go and see is free to view. It's not, there shouldn't be any extra charge. They approach you about 100 metres from the entrance and they start trying to sell you the world. So you can walk up to the viewpoint this way, it'll cost you this much. And then they say, oh, a donkey ride is free. You get on this donkey, it'll take you down there, it's included in your ticket, but it'll cost you £10. Well, you just said it was included in my ticket, and you're trying to charge me. And they try and sell you all kinds of souvenirs and all that sort of stuff, and really like there could be 2 or 3 of them like surrounding you to really like try and intimidate you. And like obviously I played up a little bit for the vlog, but at the same time like they were just like they won't shut up, they won't go away. And each bit along that road into Petra, because it's a good like 2 or 3 kilometre walk from the entrance, there's someone trying to get you to do something, whether it's take photos of you. and sell you souvenirs. And one of them, actually, I did pay to take my photo, just because I was on my own and I just wanted a cool photo of Petra. And I was a bit hesitant to give him my phone because I thought he could run off with it here. And literally, he knows all the shortcuts and all the exits and entrances, so he could literally disappear within seconds. Unfortunately, he didn't, because he did actually want the money off me. But you know, that was somewhere where it was like heavily, it kind of like impacts the experience of visiting there. Now, I personally, I know that's the game, so I'll play along and then just leave them to it. But what was incredible was the amount of comments I've had of people saying they've seen my video and don't want to go, which I will never say to people, do not go to Petra, please go to Petra, it's cool. Amazing. Yeah. And people that have been and said they had a terrible experience, and apparently one person I know, a girl went on her own, and like Bedouins were trying to like offer her sex and stuff, like they wanted to sleep with her and all this, and like they were trying to basically like force themselves on it, and like that's like really seriously like bad. And I think her experience was probably like uncommon, but that's not something you want to be. I mean, obviously they're not going to say that to me, but to a woman travelling on their own, it's not just they're trying to scam you out your money, they're trying to get sex off you as well. That's like the height of scamming, really. Yeah. And then they were like offering things like marriage and all the rest of it. And you know, they've only met them like 10 minutes ago. So that's a big scam in place. Same with Morocco as well. There's a lot of that goes on. Like you go in this Medina and people want to bring you into the shops, and then like some guy outside will bring like a door and he'll shut you into the shop, so you're like locked into the shop then, and you're not like able to get out at your own leisure. So that was quite bad. And then obviously the story I just described with the guy who basically tried to hit me because I won't give him money to go for him to show me where the museum is. And then the other one is like when you go on like a lad's holiday destination. So although that might be surprising, like one of the biggest like scamming things is I remember we went to Zante and when we arrived at the airport, we were picked up by like a rep and we got a bus to our hotel, and the rep comes in and he's giving it all this like, oh, you shag 10 birds if you go on this boat party, and you'll at this phone party, it's amazing, buy tickets off us, blah blah blah, and he sell you like a ticket, it's like €250 for like a week of events, and we stupidly paid it because we were like it was our first lads holiday, we wanted to kind of look cool. And we were basically being sold the world for €250. So we felt really under pressure as well, because he was older than us. He was like constantly like giving out how great it is, and we didn't want to look like twats, so we went along with it anyway. Paid 250 quid, ended up going on 2 of the nights out. One of the lads didn't even go on one of them nights out because he was ill, so went on one of the nights out, and we paid like a ridiculous amount, and we may as well have just gone out on the strip at our own leisure, and it would have cost us €0. And then you go to the beach in the day, and every bar you walk up to, someone trying to drag you in, free shot, we'll do this for you, that for you, you know, if you buy a meal you get a free beer. And it's just like sometimes just to feel like turning around saying shut up, just leave me alone. Like when you've been drinking heavily the night before, you're just on a lad's holiday, it's like your first real time away from your parents and stuff, you just want to like enjoy your time, have a good night out, and that's it. But these people are relentless, they just do not stop selling to you, and a lot of what they're selling is just bullshit. So you end up spending like a ridiculous amount of money, even though they said you get all these free drinks included. So I know that's not necessarily a normal one, but yeah, Zante's up there with a scam destination. And it's not just Zante, Ayia Napa, Magaluf, all the rest of it are the same.
Jordan, I did the same thing as you, but I was just like, piss off. I know it's not free, the horse ride isn't free, go away. But they are just dotted everywhere. Horse ride included, piss off. Like, leave me to enjoy the wonder of the world without you fucking hassling me. It happened at other wonders of the world, Chichen Itza. Constantly people asking me to buy stuff and let me show you around. Just let me enjoy this.
We'll have been to Chichen Itza.
You were the day before.
Yeah.
Didn't happen in Rio, Big Jesus. No one hassled me there. Just went up, enjoyed it, left. I haven't been to Colosseum, I haven't been to China. Taj Mahal, I went with a guy to tell us about it. Just thought, I'm never going to come back here. I want to be taught about it. We just got harassed for photos all day, to the point where we were just like, we want to do something. I've got a full video on it. We were there for like 2 hours, and every minute somebody wanted a photo with Tanya.
When you see somebody wanted a photo of Tanya, like they wanted to take a photo on their own phone.
Yeah, please one selfie, please one selfie. As soon as one person did it, 30 people come up.
But
Like
these are just local people.
Just random Indians.
But why did they want a photo?
Apparently it's to brag that you've got a white friend. Isn't that weird?
Okay.
Look, I've got a blonde girl. Someone found her, one of the lads who took a photo, tagged her in it and said, "This is my girlfriend."
What the hell? That's so
Imagine
bizarre.
being that sad. It's like the saddest life ever.
And that's all they do all day is hang around the Taj Mahal,
Dunno.
take photos.
No, but it happened everywhere in India. Just constantly people being like, "Oh, please let me take a selfie."
Oh, so it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
To be fair though, it was the same when I went to Beijing in China. Like, there's a photo of, so I was in Tiananmen Square, which is like one of the most famous squares in the world, and this like old couple come up to me. They must have been in like the 60s. Like, she couldn't speak English, but she was like, "Can I take a photo of my husband with you?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I got a photo, and then I gave her my phone. And I was like, "Get one of me and this guy." And I think because they maybe from the countryside or something like that, and maybe they were tourists in Beijing too. I don't think they'd ever seen a white person before, so they were like, "Oh, this is amazing."
It's a bit different. But in India, they all have TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. They see white people every day.
Yeah. But still in China, like I had like a lot of like teenage girls taking photos of me, but on the sly, like like all this.
That happened in Indonesia to me. So I was sat on my laptop in McDonald's. Tanya was out filming something, and I could just see a woman like this taking a photo of me, and I was just like, all right. Let's end it there before the cameras die, before you've got to go watch Everton.
It's fun.
Some controversial topics there. I'd be
Definitely.
interested to see what other people think.
Yeah, if you don't agree with them, don't hate me. It's just based off my experience. Maybe I'll go back to these countries and I'll have a different experience to what I've just been talking about for the past couple of hours.
You can hate me all you want. Opinions are valid. People are allowed opinions.
And like we've disagreed on a couple of things there, and I don't dislike you because of it, and I hope you don't dislike me because of it either.
Yeah, Bali's overrated. Italian food's the best. That's how we end it.
And North Korea is the safest country in the world.
See you later.
Ciao.